Hello, YouTube. How are you guys doing? Long time no see. I know, I'm so sorry about that. Anyhow, I'm gonna kind of do an all-in-one video for the 3 videos I would have normally put out this week. And to start with, the first video I would have normally put out would have been on Wednesday for my works in progress. Now, as of last Friday, I honestly did have 4 projects on the go. Yeah, not so much now. Mind me for a minute, I got a mess going on with my yarn. Anyhow, so the WIP that I do have on the go right now is for a little collab I come across back in mid to late September, and I will hopefully remember to share the video down below, the initial video to get started. And what it is Decade Diva Party 2024. Now, I've already shown you guys what I made for the 1920s and the 1940s. I do believe I have shown part of this item already, like last week. But I did not put a stitch marker in for a progress marker. I probably won't put one in this week either because hoping it will be done next week. And I'm using the Burnett Super Value regular worsted 100% acrylic number 4 yarn in the colors brown and caramel. And here's a disclaimer for me, you may not know. I started it with the brown. I did 10 rows, then I switched to the caramel, did 10 rows, and then went back to the brown for 10 rows. And it screamed to me Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, which are my #1 favorite chocolate in the world. Like, if I go to the grocery store or to the convenience store and I'm getting chocolate, it's Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. They are my all-time favorite chocolate. So, I went looking for a pattern for the 1950s, which is the decade I'm currently working on, and I found this scarf. Now, the pattern was a paid pattern, so I just went off of the inspiration of the picture. And unfortunately, it was in black and white, but you could tell there was a dark color and a light color. So I thought, perfect, these 2 colors, because they're both in the brown family, in my opinion, they work great together. Now, I obviously don't know the size of the width of the scarf. I don't know the height of each stripe. I don't know the length of the scarf in general. So I'm kind of just winging it, which is fine. But I'm doing it 40 stitches across in a garter stitch. So every row's knit. And I'm only doing them 10 high. Now in the picture that I'm got my inspiration from, it looks like each color could be possibly 30 or 40 rows high. Problem is I only have 1 skein of each color. And another disclaimer about me, I've been a knitter for 36 years. And I honestly can't frog knitting. If I've got to frog it because I made a mistake, I rip it completely out and start over. I don't care if I'm only 1 or 2 rows or rounds or whatever till finishing. I can't. I just never been good at it. I have tried. I've purposely mucked up a pattern to try to teach myself to be better at it. And it is what it is, right? So anyways, I thought, no, I'm only going to make mine 10 rows high because the caramel color, or I like to call it peanut butter because it reminds me of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I had already used some of that skein, and I really didn't want to try and play yarn chicken and have to try and rip just that color back because I'm also, which I shouldn't have done it, but I did, and now I regret doing it. I should have carried the yarn all the way up the one side, but I didn't. I don't know why. The mystery to me is a mystery to you. So I cut my yarn each time I changed colors. And had I cut, they say I did the brown and then I did the caramel and I was like a row too short. So I got to rip it back. Then I got to tie on the brown again to do the cast off row. So yeah, my stripes are not very thick, but it's a good length. Here's where I'm at right now. So I'm about to tie in the next color. I do have my 10 of the brown. And like I said, if you look at it, it looks like, literally like someone took a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup and cut it in half, and you're looking at the cross section in the middle. But it's nice and thick. It's a very drapey yarn. Couldn't tell you what size the knit needles are, like thickness. I do know they're a good size, which helps to make it kind of drapey, but it's a good size scarf. Hopefully you guys are catching a good enough view of it in the video. I can't tell because unfortunately my camera's only got one-sided and I can't see the screen side. So there's the one side of the scarf and then the back side, which looks pretty decent too. It could be the front if you want where the colors change and you can see that. I think it still looks kind of cute with that, extra little thinner stripe if you want to call it that. So that is my item I'm working on for the Decade Divas for the 1950s. Like I said, I'm not going to put a stitch marker in because I'm kind of hoping within the next day or two it's going to be finished. I think it will be finished by hopefully before Wednesday, so it won't be in a WIP for next week. So that's all the WIPs I have. Like I said, I did have 4 projects on the go as of last Friday. I've only got 1. Now, the second video I would have put out this week, had I done a video, would have been yesterday for Things We're Making Thursday. I'm enjoying that collab so much, and seeing everybody's projects is amazing. I love what I'm seeing. But for this month, our theme is Halloween. Obviously, we're in the month of October. You guys have already seen a couple things I made a couple weeks back, which was my Beetlejuice Vibe Scrunchie. And if you haven't, go back and look for that video. It was 2 weeks ago. And I also did, it's like a spider web net type idea to go over top of your hair bun. So last week, I decided to start a black cat. Now I'm using the Loop and Threads Soft Classic. And now I'm not sponsored by any of these yarns, but hey, if they ever want to reach out to me, I'd be happy. But I found some black in my stash. And I do find with the Loop and Threads, even though it says it's a worsted weight 100% acrylic yarn as well, it calls for a 5.5 crochet hook, where the Bernat calls for their super value yarn. I had to look it back up so I didn't call it the other brand. It calls only for a 5. And I do agree the Loops and Thread does feel thicker. So last week when I showed this item, I didn't know if I was going to play yarn chicken or stuffing chicken. Now the item is finished, and this is what I've left for stuffing. And that's out of what was left out of a actual bed-sized pillow. That's what I buy for my stuffing, and then I use the casing for linings for bags. So yeah, I didn't know if I was going to play yarn chicken or stuffing chicken. I actually did pretty good. And another disclaimer about me, other than not able to rip back knitting very well and pick up stitches, I can't sew straight. I really can't. I love making amigurumis. I've made I don't know how many different things, and they're always crooked. Doesn't matter what it is. One piece of it's, higher up than the other. One's a little more forward than the other, or whatever the case may be. They're crooked. It's their own personality. I just go with it. When I showed it last week, I was just working on the head. And I was at the part to do the decreasing at the top. And I knew I was going to put the face on before I stuffed it and sewn the top together with the ears. The eyes, the safety eyes I'm using are just little black eyes that you would normally probably use. So you're making like an 8-inch or 6-inch doll kind of thing. And it's only got a really tiny head. Those would be perfect for these eyes. For most of my amigurumis, these eyes don't work out that great. I bought them from Amazon with some prize gift cards I'd won a few years ago now. And the amount of eyes that came in the package for the price, I thought, oh, that's like a really good steal, and I went with it. Yeah, the eyes are tiny. And they're black, and they're on a black project. And then, I don't know, the whiskers are only half the length. I should have made them double the length, so that looks a little weird. And the nose, I just sew on with yarn and makeshift nose, I guess you could say. You can tell it's not straight either. Then I always have issue with stuffing said projects. Like if it's a stuff, like a amigurumi that's got arms and legs, I can guarantee you one leg or one arm is thicker than the other, always. or one part of the body is thicker than the other, and the yarn or the stuffing, you can see it. And here's my cat, all done. There is eyes on there. I don't know how well you can see them. I'll try and bring it a little closer to the camera. One ear is sewn in a little closer than, like one stitch closer than the other. So one only has one has 2 stitches. Like I said, the eyes, one is higher than the other. The face is crooked. And I put that on before I stuffed it. The whiskers are short. The nose, you can tell there's a little V indent there at the top of the one part of the nose. So yeah, and the face isn't on straight. It's like I said, it's my own quirky little thing. Then when I went to do the tail, I started the tail and I just worked it up to a certain length, held it on to about where I was going to sew it on, which is also crooked. It's over 1 stitch more than it should be. I should have it 1 stitch over, but the cat's not right in the head. How about that one? So when I sewed it on the bottom, now had I had a pipe cleaner in the house or something like that, I think it would have worked great because you could kind of mold the tail. I don't have pipe cleaners. I'm definitely going to see about maybe purchasing some. But what I did was once I sewed it on the bottom, I ran the thread, or the yarn, up inside the body to about here. Then I brought it back out because I made sure I cut a long enough length and curled the tail up so that, a toddler can kind of carry the cat. The poor, scary looking cat, in my opinion. So that's project 1 that's done. Then I would have done a video today for just my finished objects, which will be the other 2 projects I had on the go. First one is, oh, I'm so sorry for the noise. I do not know what's going on in my hallway, but there's a bit of noise out there. I'm sorry if you hear it. Anyways, the first project I'm going to show you is for the Decade Divas Party 2024 for the pattern I found for the 1960s. And I love it. Now, the pattern called for a worsted 4 yarn. I used a size 3 DK yarn that I won from Erin over at Crafting Kitty Creator Spotlight for the July make-along. Yeah, July, because the other project I'm going to show was the yarn I won for August. So, I don't know if you guys can hear that noise, but it's quite loud. I really don't know what's going on. And if you do, again, I'm sorry, I can't control the noise in my apartment building. So this is the hat I found. It is a 2x2 rib. Now you're sitting there thinking, Tammy, that looks like a really weird looking hat. I agree, it does when you hold it like this. Now, technically you're supposed to fold up a brim of your preferred size. Again, you're looking at it thinking, Tammy, that's a weird looking hat. Mind the awkwardness here for a moment. It fits my head, so it works. And it's only a size 3 yarn, and it's got a lot of give still in it. And you can make the brim however thick you want. You can make a thinner brim if you prefer and have more of a slouchy type of hat. I love it. Other than the fact I own, oh boy, probably 3 or 4 hats I've made in the past that I usually wear. I don't need another winter hat. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with this hat. My mom really likes the color blue, so I may surprise her and have this show up in her mailbox one day and have it already folded up so she sees it's supposed to be a brim. And my mom does have a much smaller head than me, so I'm pig-headed, and my head shows it, kind of thing. And so on my mom, it'd be a little looser. Now, her winters are usually a little bit colder than ours, but like I said, because it's a 2x2 rib, it is thick. Even though it was with a size 3 yarn, like a DK weight yarn, it is thick. Very, very thick. Now, the yarn, I don't have a band here available. I do have one in the house, but not available. It does say on the band it's 100% worsted weight yarn. It's made in Turkey. I do remember that much. But to me, it is a little rough and scratchy. To me, it's actually more scratchy than Red Heart Super Saver yarn. And again, not sponsored by them, but they want to reach out to me. I'd be more than glad gladly take a sponsor from them. But this yarn is a little rough, but on the head, because you got your hair and all that, so it's only really ever touching back of your neck, your ears, and your forehead. If you can handle that little bit of itchiness, even though there's no wool in it, it makes for a comfortable hat. I'm just going to leave it on just because I'm not going to fiddle with it. And so, I will talk about the 1980s pattern in a moment, but to do another finished project. Now this yarn, well, start with this yarn. Aaron's son Chomps picked it out for me, and I made the sweater a little bit ago with the hood on it. I do have a video for that sweater that I made. I've never put a hood on a knitted sweater before. I loved how it turned out. It was awesome. But then in August, Creator Spotlight, I won again. And then I won this other yarn, which I've shown in the past, me getting the yarn, and I made a hat with it. This yarn does not have much information on it English-wise. Like, even to the point where I don't think it told you what size of yarn it is. I think, by the feel of it, it's a size 5 weight yarn. And the reason I feel that is because A, it is thick. B, to my knowledge, I do not have carpal tunnel or anything like that in my wrist. When working with this yarn in the last project I made with it and this project I'm going to show you in a moment, after every 5-10 minutes of working with it, I had to put it down and take a break. Because I'm right-handed, I crochet with my hook in my right hand, I hold my yarn with my left. I don't know if I'm holding it tighter or what I'm doing, but my wrist after every few minutes would ache. So maybe I do have starting of carpal tunnel. I don't know. I've never had it checked. But it's only, I find, with size 5 and up yarn, I have that issue with. So what I made, now this is off of a Facebook group. I will share that link down below in the comment section if you're interested in checking it out. It's crocheted only to participate, but it could give you some possible good ideas if you crochet. So this is the bag I made for it. Now it's just had a small, thick single crochet base to it. Then it's a V-stitch. And then I kind of went my own way here at the top for the top edging of the bag and the straps, because I like where my straps go over top of it and I stitch all the way around. I find it's a little more sturdy. Now the bag with this yarn does not have much give this way, but if you turn it this way, it stretches pretty good. I do not have it lined, as you can tell, or I wouldn't be stretching it like this. And actually the hat's going to come off. I'm getting warm. Mind the hair mess now. I'm sorry about that. But the bag has good stretch to it. Like, it's not a very big bag. It is holey, so if you're going to use it for a project bag, you're going to lose your hooks or your needles unless you've got a pouch or a Ziploc bag or some other kind of bag that's inside with those items. But I think this bag would make for a great, either like, say you got like young children and you're going to like a little party or gathering, play date. You figure they're young children, the toys are bigger, you could carry them in this easily enough. Or like here in my city, at a lot of our local parks and a lot of our churches, none of our schools I don't think have them, but our parks and our churches do, where they're a small little community library, I guess you could call it. And like, say I finish a book, I can go there, drop a book off, look, see what's there, and bring books home for free, keep them as long as I want. Or if I'm going to my actual library and I'm getting books out there. Now, I wouldn't, even though like it's got a good stretch that way, I probably would not put in a book that's, say, 700-800 pages and it's a hardcover book. But if you're putting in, say, 2 or 3 books that are only 200 pages, 250 pages each, they're a lighter book, they're a bit smaller books, it'd make for a good book bag. So, those are what I've made. Now, for the 1980s project, haven't started it yet for one main reason. Well, actually, originally it was 2. and then the one I resolved it. The first one was, and I went on a rant on a live recently about this. The site I use for most of my patterns is supposed to be a DIY site. And I've been on this site for probably about 8 years now. I love this site. Come up with a lot of neat ideas and patterns and how-tos and so on and so forth. When I was searching and trying to find things for the 1980s, didn't matter if it was knit or crochet, I just wanted to find a pattern that it stated it was from the 1980s. I was finding a lot, a lot of patterns from another site that's a selling site where normally you sell your things you've made or your patterns you designed. Now you did hear that correctly. Your patterns you designed. I am finding people are using that site to sell, say, their vintage grandmother knitting and crochet pattern books. And they are popping up like crazy on the DIY site. I don't think that's right. I wish the DIY site would change. I could block each one of these items individually. You put in whatever in your search engine on the site. It brings up about 300 possibilities that would fit the keywords you used. Out of that 300, say on the very first row, because it's usually 4 wide, you block said item. If you're not interested in it, it doesn't really hit the category you're looking for or whatever, and you go through those 300 photos of options, I can guarantee you'll find at least 8 more copies of that same one you already blocked. And I kind of wish that DIY site, if you block one with whatever the title is in the photo, it blocks all of them that follows that. Or if they would have a button where you can click on it and put in certain specs that you do not want to see at all. Like if you're a wood carver, you don't want to see DIY projects pop up, even though you put in your search engine wood carving, but have projects come up for how to do French braids in your hair or French manicure for your fingernails or stuff like that. They're not going to see that. So, I don't want to mention sites, but I'm sure a lot of you crafters who've, used this site know exactly which site I'm speaking of. Now, mind you, the selling site, I understand their aspect of they want to get their stuff out there on as many platforms as possible, but I wish the DIY site would have it so that you could put those items in a separate folder. So if you're looking for that type, like sold item or things you can buy, I'm sure you know where I'm getting at. Anyhow, I finally did find a pattern on that site for the years. Now it says in the pattern title 70s and 80s, so the pattern will be good for this decade party we're doing. And if anyone's my age or roughly around my age, I can guarantee you had a set of these. Or if you're a bit older than me and you have your own children and you are a knitter, I can guarantee you made your children these. Or your mother or your aunt or somebody was a knitter, you and or your children had a set of these, which are those lovely grandmother knitted slippers. I had them as a child growing up, multiple different pairs that my grandmother and my mother both made for me. When I had my boys, unfortunately I did not knit back then often, so I never made them or myself any. More recently, though, I have made said pattern a few times, and I've actually gone on YouTube to get the actual pattern because the one I found, it's just a photo. It's not an actual pattern. And it's like, And even if I tried searching more of that theme and certain words, I couldn't find an actual pattern. I struggled with it. I gave up. And that's what set me on my rant. Now, I'm debating on how I want to do these said slippers. Now, if I use the Burnett Super Value yarn, which is the way I'm thinking of going, it does say you should use 2 contrasting colors. The colors I'm using in my scarf would be awesome for it, but I will run out. Like, I'll have enough to get the slippers done, but then I won't get much more of the scarf done. So I don't want to dip into that yarn. Now, to my right here, which you can't see, I have 3 Rubbermaid containers with my yarn stash. I only have a small yarn stash. I work out of it pretty frequently. Every once in a while I add new stuff, but not a whole lot, but enough to keep me going. So I was looking at what I had for stash, and I do have a really nice lilac purpley color, but nothing else to really go with that one. So I could do it with 1 strand, but these slippers look and feel so much better if you use 2, especially if you're using the Burnett yarn, because it is a softer, drapier yarn. You want it a little thicker. Now, if I were to use the loops and thread yarn, worsted yarn that I have a full skein in red. I have a full skein in a nice dark green, so Christmassy colors. I wouldn't put them together because they'd be too thick and stiff, but if I were to do 1 strand, that would be fine. Now, I went to my emails today because, for those who have seen, I've been working out of this book recently, and I enjoy this book. I've been having fun with it. I had a pull up recently that I took down on Monday, and I put up 3 projects, like the 3 next projects in said book. And the next one is actually the hat, and my husband likes that style of hat. Now, the picture in the book, the hat is yellow, red, and like a navy blue. We're swapping out the blue for black. Now, in my city, there is a yarn place. Well, it's kind of like almost an everything place. You can buy clothing, dishes, towels, yarn, fabric, all kinds of stuff. Crafting, all kinds of crafting stuff. Arts and crafts type stuff. Like, you can get a lot of different stuff at this place. Baking, dishes. They have a pretty good yarn section at this store. And I got the flyer in my email this morning. I noticed it. And what it was, it had some pretty good deals. Really, really good deals. And my husband did say he'd get the yarn to make this hat, because it's for him. He wants it, though, in yellow, red, and black, because that's his work uniform colors, which I'll happy knit in black. It's not a whole lot. And I don't mind knitting with black, to be honest with you. Right now, with this flyer, and it's only good till Sunday, the store is called Lens Mills. I believe it's only Canada-wide. I don't think the store is available in the States, and I don't know if they ship to the States, if you can do online and if they'll ship or not. I've never looked into it. I've always gone into my local location and shopped. So right now, it's got some pretty good deals. First deal I saw on there was if you spent $20 or more, you get a free tote with it. I thought, okay, that's no problem. I can do that, because originally I was only going to get 3 skeins. Guarantee it's going to be over $20 for the 3 skeins. 8, 16, yeah, I'm looking at about $24. So that was fine. That wasn't going to be an issue. Well, then